All right, thanks for joining another architecture review meeting for fulfillment. Today is the 5th of June, 2024. And the topic for today is one brought to us by Michael about application stability and engineering efficiency. Michael, I'll kick it over to you.
Sure thing. Yeah, so I thought in light of recent discussions on both related to the 60/40 split and conversations in the EM sync and in-flight fulfillment MR around these topics, I was thinking about how we could both approach this and incorporate this. And I think I listed a couple of initial thoughts on this, but I'd very much like to hear everybody's opinion on this. I think the first and foremost, the point was that I often see that when we do plan projects, longer running projects, we end up having a couple of iterations, maybe even more than that, and then the final one being the technical debt paydown, which then never ends up happening and being moved to the backlog. And one of the items I saw that we could do there is to maybe put more weight on application stability and engineering efficiency, arguing for incorporating or embedding these technical debt paydown changes into each iteration instead of having it as a separate step. I don't know if we want to go item by item. There was three. I think let me just go through the two others and then we can dive into the discussion. The other point was that I see a good opportunity, or actually quite a large opportunity, for us to bring stability by heightening the bar for code reviews in CustomersDot. To that end, I'm not sure how we could approach this, but we could form and establish and maintain a forum where we discuss different patterns that we like to lean on and patterns that we'd like to move away from, and lean on enforcing lint rules. And even further ahead, I see as an opportunity for us to become, because we're already a satellite repository for the main repository, to move faster and establish patterns and maybe even become a template for how to establish satellite repositories in general, committing stuff back into the main repository. And I think the final thing, which has already been discussed to some extent, and I see there's still a process that we need to define here, but incorporating larger engineering driven projects into our OKR process. And I have no specific way of doing this. And I think this is something that we're already discussing currently. But that's like the third tier that I see, or opportunity for us to kind of incorporate some of these. I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts. I think Vitaly, you have a point to the first one. So I'll kick it over to you.
Yep, thanks, Michael, and thanks for bringing this important topic to the architecture review meeting. Yeah, I'm just not sure where to start, because I think that Jerome pretty much put a really good summary at the bottom about developing engineering roadmap. So probably we can just jump to Jerome's point there.
Sure. Yeah, I can jump and cover that. So this was actually one of the topics I was discussing with each of the engineering managers this week. And one of the things I want to start doing is developing an engineering roadmap, which is included as part of the broader fulfillment roadmap. currently the fulfillment roadmap, we've got, the product team's done a really great job of laying out all of the product initiatives, and sprinkled in there, we've got some engineering initiatives, but I think that we can do a better job of being really explicit about which ones we want to push forward and just being a lot more deliberate about it. So the idea is to develop that roadmap of tech debt and architecture work and formalize it. And each quarter, what we're going to do is basically pull from that when we're doing our OKRs. So the ask is just to start thinking about what you'd like added there and then start proposing it into the issue. I've linked over to an example from James's team and platform where there's already sort of that quarterly ask of what are the things that we should work on that are related to tech debt and architecture. There's, I think, like 17 items in there, and the idea would be to distill it down into a few sub-themes that can be added to the roadmap. But that's a high-level idea of what I'd like to do here. Yeah, curious to hear people's thoughts.
Yeah, that's basically what would help us in increasing the application stability and the platform stability. I think I want to jump to the first Michael's point about how we apply the iteration value to our changes. And one thing that I noticed that so there are like two approaches in programming. The first one called is tactical programming, and the second one is called the strategic programming. And tactical programming is all about, yeah, we will fix this right here, right now, and we no longer care about what is going on with this piece of our application in the future. And the strategic approach is more about what if we need like apply some additional change to this piece of our application or this component of our application. And it's more about like thinking what could happen in the future. And our current approach is to use more like a tactical programming, like let's fix this right here, right now, or like create a follow-up. And like Michael mentioned, these follow-ups usually just like getting buried in our backlog, and that's it. So while we are developing this engineering roadmap, fulfillment roadmap, we also have a bunch of issues where we discuss different patterns and approaches that we would like to see like more or less in our code base. And it would be nice to revive them. For example, Etienne created a really excellent issue about service objects. And I think this issue just didn't receive enough attention from our engineers. Like, Michael raised a good point that we need really to establish a set of patterns. And we even could like be more disconnected from a main repo because we can move faster and we can apply our own, we can apply and we can use our own patterns and approaches if we really need to move faster and to deliver like our code, our features to our customers. So yeah, to sum up, we have a bunch of issues. If you want, we can probably create a list of them where can like everyone can participate and share an idea, question, comment, share comment, thoughts, or whatever. in order to ensure that everyone is on the same page and agree with our patterns and approaches in our like development processes, to ensure we deliver really smooth quality to our application and our platform overall.
I feel like there are a lot of different topics within this overall you know, topic that you've brought, Michael. So one of them that, there's a few of them that stand out, but one of them that we could dive into a little bit more is this idea, and I've seen it a lot too, where we create follow-ups. Like we try to deliver iteratively, and we have, this happens like with an MR review, like we'll review something and say like this is okay for a follow-up, but we'll go ahead and merge this. And a lot of times, sometimes maybe that doesn't actually get created in a follow-up. Maybe, a lot of times it will, either as an MR or an issue that gets pushed off later. I think there's varying degrees of follow-up, one being like an immediate follow-up that someone might take. They just pick it up immediately, but we'll push through with that MR just to be iterative. Or there's the ones that get created into an issue and then, like you said, gets pushed in the backlog and dies on the vine. Or, like we have other priorities. It's not like we're just ignoring it intentionally, but so I guess I'm raising this as like there are different levels of follow-up that we have, and I'm wondering if perhaps there's a way that we can improve the ones that get pushed into the backlog and forgotten about. Because I think in other cases, we probably are okay about creating an MR for an immediate action later, but yeah, I'm curious what others' experience has been like.
Yeah, my experience with follow-ups, but at least in my opinion, I think they are really bad for the overall health, because like there is this gap in time between like creating an issue for a follow-up and when it's get like landed into a code base. And like this gap, everyone who sees this code could like reapply the same pattern, could understand this code like incorrectly, and that creates like a false knowledge. Like say we created like a follow-up to rename one of our methods to like to align more with our business operations. And when someone else sees that code with an old method's name, it's really hard then for this particular engineer to like to get attention to this created follow-up issue where we want to rename this method. And that creates like a false knowledge to them, and which could be like spread it among other engineers and PMs and engineering managers and like even like all team members in GitLab. And that's like on one side, and like on the other side, like Tyler mentioned, like most follow-up like gets pushed into the backlog and we just forget about them.
One bridge between this or compromise I could see as an initial step is that we could put a priority on these follow-ups, perhaps as a way to signify the importance, because sometimes there's stuff that I expect to be followed up on straight after, and that gets forgotten, and then there's other stuff where it's probably more of a nice to have, and yes, this would improve something, but may not degrade the the readability of code or the code standard. But I think it's a balance to strike, and this is why I'm talking about heightening the bar for reviews and maybe holding holding the author to maybe a slightly higher standard, and that is something that is within our ability to do. And I think there's probably also some historic stuff in terms of wanting to move fast in order to accommodate and get features implemented, but it also it has a cost on the other side that I've definitely seen. And I think these balances and striking this is a difficult task and probably not something that we can do in this meeting, but that would be the idea of having perhaps a maintainer group to diagnose, oh, we're actually seeing this problem come up, and maybe even developing tools for, like, for example, linting tools to combat it. That could be an approach.
For some of these follow-ups, if you expect that follow-up to be worked on after the issue is closed, I would just schedule it. I would just put the milestone straight away instead of just leaving it there, right? If something important, put a milestone straight away, ping the EM and the PM, let them know, hey, I would expect this follow-up to be worked on right after, if that's a priority. And then for the other ones, I think I've seen many times where these follow-ups just get created, like, okay, there's a bunch of comments there, nice to have, nitpicks. Some of these get created and then forgotten because they may appear like lower priority. However, I think at the very least you could make the EM or PM aware of those. And as you mentioned, I agree, Michael, with setting a priority as well, just to, in case the EM, doesn't know how important that is, right? You can either mention it or set the priority straight away, right? How bad is this if we don't do it in the next 2 or 3 months, right? I think that will give us an idea, and that will help ultimately prioritize between the PM and the connections.
Does it feel like yeah, go ahead.
I would like to add on to what James just said, that like getting the PM knows what some topics are about, and basically to me that circles back to what Tyler and Tatiana wrote in this document. I think to me it's going to be like the main takeaway here for today. And Tyler mentioned engineering-led OKRs. And Tatiana is mentioning the importance of knowing like how to improve, the importance of understanding how to improve stability and scalability, and just coming up with a compelling story. And yeah, I like this. I like the idea of some sort of engineer PM collaboration, one-on-one session, whatever you call that, right? When well, Vitaly was mentioning the example of me creating an issue about services versus model. Why would anyone care about that in the end, right? It makes sense to me. I wrote a blurb about it, and Vitaly replied, and a few engineers replied, Tatiana, why would Tatiana care about that? And and so I would gladly sit with Tatiana for like half an hour and say, well, it comes down to the to make testability easier down the road, right? And so that would, be impactful in a positive way, because based on like experience on Cloud Blue project, it was hard to test A, B, and C, blah, 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 blah. Just helping to connect the dots. And I think there is a lot of value in doing that. And I didn't realize that until like this, reading these notes for this meeting. So me creating that one issue about services versus models and how to use them, I feel like that's like half the job done, right? I feel like this issue, this work should conclude with a conversation with a PM, and then having a talk with Tatiana about this topic. Tatiana at the end of the conversation will be like, okay, I get it, right? And so maybe that would help later on for the planning of future projects. Does this make sense, Tatiana, what I'm saying? I just like picked on you just right now. I hope you mind.
Yeah, I know, 100%. And I just something to add. I don't think this needs to be a conversation, but I would, it can always be a conversation if, something isn't clicking, but just describing the problem as like the very first thing that you're trying to solve by sort of creating this proposal, I think is important. And like having it so easy to understand that anyone reading the epic, not just me or like any other PM, like understands the importance of it. Because like you said, you know, someone might create an issue. I'm like, oh, this is a great idea. This is like a great solution to put forth. But if you don't understand why you're trying to do it, it's going to be hard conversation. Thank
I
you.
think one of the things that came up in the CM Sync meeting, at least myself, I think I haven't done a great job at explaining, you know, why these things are important, especially when it comes to things like OKRs, right? And we have to, as EMs, we have to chat with our PM counterparts to prioritize things. I think as an EM, I haven't done a good job on translating this into why this is good for the business, right? I understand that this is a problem technically, some of these technical depths, but we need to get PMs and other stakeholders as well, because you know we have other teams that may be pushing for other features as well. We need to have them aligned, and for that, I think as an EM, I need to do a better job at translating that into why you know why this is a compelling story, as Tatiana says, or why is this good for the business.
Italy, you have a hand up.
Yes. Like, in my opinion, that's why we're having this conversation right now, because in order to involve not only like PMs but everyone else, like for instance the enterprise team, enterprise application team, we as engineers should provide a really high level abstractions to them in their own language to ensure that there is like one-to-one match between like business requirements and versus your high level abstraction of your code, high technical details underneath of this business language, to ensure that everyone uses the same language between like everywhere in every discussion, and there is no base like gap, then there is no need like to explain something to someone because someone like created a really technical piece of pushed a really technical piece in the application into the application. So it's all goes to providing high level abstractions to ensure you, when you look at the implementation, you look on the business requirements of this feature, and there is like one-to-one match, and you completely understand what is going on there. And that also could increase like the application stability, and like you can like swap something that is going on like inside of this component and model. And like Etienne mentioned, we have a bunch of issues that we like should continue discussing on to ensure that we follow this path. Additionally, like there is also a really good point about the follow-ups. In my opinion, why we need follow-ups? Because we have 2 rounds of reviews. This is really like significantly increases the feedback loop when you create a merge request and when you merge it or someone else merges it. Because once like the initial reviewer comes to your merge request and starts reviewing it creates like a bunch of follow-ups, non-blocking things that would be nice to have. And then he like approves this merge request and passes it to a maintainer. When maintainer returns to this merge request, and he like creates or submits another bunch of non-blocking stuff, which you also need to think, do I need to resolve them right here, right now, or do I need to resolve them later? And that significantly increases the feedback loop between like initial like initial review and when the merge request lands. I don't think we actually can do that on the CustomersDot because of the SOX compliance to reduce that require just one review per merge request, front end and back end. No needs like in a maintainer. That's just my dreams.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a whole separate debate. There are reasons why that was implemented in GitLab, and one was to raise the bar as well, to have two people there. I actually remember when this was implemented back in the day, and that was the main thing. We were a bit more aggressive in terms of the quality, and we implemented that. We didn't even call it maintainer. I forgot, maybe final boss or something like that. I don't know. There was something funny for it. We used to call it. Yeah. Anyways, I think it's a good debate though, and I agree. Maybe tricky with compliance.
I think we're getting a little low in time, and I don't know if we have time for it now, but it would be interesting to talk a little bit more, maybe in a next session or something, about ways to improve the review process. If there are things like, you know, avoiding follow-up somehow, and like pushing for more of these things to be acted on immediately versus waiting till later, you know, to balance, like Michael was saying, with anything, but this, you know, is a balance between iterating quickly and potentially improving the code here and now. Yeah, we can think about calibration sessions, like whose responsibility is it to even create the follow-up issue if it requires an issue? Is it the, you know, maintainer? And then making sure that they set priority and milestone, like we were talking about, like all those things seem like good potential action items that we could do, you know, as the reviewer. Yeah.
I think all of those items make a lot of sense in terms of what's being discussed today. Maybe I can try to summarize. Like I really think that we do need to start with that understanding that we need both business value and to also build for reliability and scalability. Like both are needed. You can't do just one. If you only deliver business value, but you never actually take care of the code, eventually that code stops working and you know, your business goes under. Or if you only focus on building, you know, reliable, scalable software, but no one uses it and no one buys it, you don't have a business because no one's giving you any money. So both are needed. And I think that fundamental understanding is really important. And I think that partnership between product and engineering is super important. And I think that we've got a great collaboration within fulfillment between product and engineering. So I think just starting with that understanding that we need to balance both is really what's needed. And then from there, you start implementing this balance in all areas, starting with the roadmap. You know, we've got a lot of product initiatives on the roadmap right now. We should add more engineering ones there in terms of, you know, tech debt and architecture work. And then, you know, not only on the annual roadmap, but also on quarterly OKRs. So ensuring that tech debt and architecture work is in those quarterly OKRs as priority ones or priority twos. And then, you know, the next level down in milestone planning, ensuring that follow-ups are scheduled there. And then even in the review process or the development process, just ensuring that, you know, follow-up issues are created or that we're upholding that quality bar there as well. So I'd look at that kind of a framing for this.
In order to better communicate this going forward. I often struggle to find maintenance labels that aptly cover technical depth and follow-ups. Would it be possible to perhaps discuss adding stability, maintenance stability, and perhaps maintenance, I don't know, engineering efficiency or something like that, to better help us categorize these and communicate the importance of some of this? Just an idea that sprung to my mind.
There's actually already performance and scalability for maintenance issues. So I don't know if that's something we're just not using.
Well,
That's a bit-
scalability, I don't see as the same thing as stability. And performance I could see as I guess engineering efficiency as well. Though when I think performance, I usually think about, you know, things being running fast on the application, but that could be a way to communicate it for sure.
I unfortunately need to drop, but I think this is a really awesome discussion, and I think that like the next steps here should be, first we should move forward with merging that MR, which just talks about this balance. So I'll speak with Omar about just getting that merged, and then the second piece will be actually starting to implement this balance across all of our processes. So there's going to be a lot of different places that need to be updated in terms of process. I will start a discussion issue where we can start breaking all of this down, you know, talking about it at the you know, yearly level, quarterly level, monthly milestones, and then down into the day-to-day workflow as well. I'll try to get that spun up as soon as possible, and then we can continue the discussion there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for everyone for joining. That was great show up today, and great discussion. See y'all.
Thanks for raising it, Michael.
Thank
Bye.
you.